The Remnant of the Flame. Chapter 1, The Way of Goodbye is Too Cold. The autumn breeze is cold. The fluorescent lights in the interrogation room of the City A police station shimmered faintly. The man sitting in the interrogation chair had a smile on his lips, an inky high-neck trench coat, and suspected bloodstains on his wrists. I didn't kill anyone, I just predicted it too accurately. His tone was frivolous, but his eyes were staring at the figure standing behind the one-way glass. Kuang Siyu pushed the door and entered, and said coldly, "Take him away." It was his own order, not for interrogation, but for the determination of a possibility that he would not admit to it. Because the way of committing the crime that night is too familiar. Just like 3 years ago, the designer of the bombing in the city, the hanging, was once a police wizard he single-handedly. It was also the only existence that made him willing to take off his mask. And after that bombing, she died. Or she answered. However, the murder notice that appeared again 3 years later was, with the signal format, coding logic, and psychological control design of that year run in the same groove. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 2, The Murder Novelist and His Prophecy. Nai Yun Miao's novel The Seventh Bell Rings is highly consistent with the details of this murder. 7 days before his death, the victim received a voice recording, which rang once a day, and finally died of cardiac arrest on the 7th day, with no trauma and no toxic reaction. The voice in the recording is as calm as that of a trained announcer, but it is the voice print data before the craggy disappears. Naturally, the police did not believe that this was a coincidence. I didn't record the recording, I wrote the novel. But I also received the exact same recording. Kuang Siyu narrowed his eyes. You mean, someone is using you as bait? Or rather, the genius girl you are looking for at the police station who has been dead for 3 years has returned. There was a weird smile on the corner of Nai Yun Miao's mouth, as if he was waiting for a game to officially start. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 3, The Shadow of the Crow. The case was confusing, and Lang analyzed that the audio tape was mixed with long-range brainwave jamming signals, which is one of the techniques used by resonators. 3 years ago, the resonant tried to create a group violence through psychological suggestion, and he was suspended and infiltrated undercover, but his whereabouts were unknown in the crucial battle. Afterwards, except for a burned-out and mutilated communication record, no one survived. Kuang Siyu flipped through old documents in the archives, and a dusty unsent letter jumped into view. If I can't return, please keep the door of the truth for me. The crow will not be extinguished by the fire, but will be reborn from the ashes. That was the only word she left. The case began to reveal a striking intertwined structure. New deceased persons continue to appear, each receiving 7 recordings before they die, gradually collapsing to death. Each recording is a confidential statement that has never been made public, only a past that is known only to the hang. She, still alive? Underscore 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 un. Chapter 4, Restart in the Ashes. The scene of the 4th deceased was monitored, and a figure was photographed. They took screenshots, zoomed in, compared, and after countless data checks, Lang Qunkai found that her action habits were consistent, and the matching rate of subtle features reached 97.8%. She's alive. That night, Kuang Siyu went to the data waste warehouse alone. It was once the wreckage left behind by the explosion of the city, it is said to have been completely cleared. Unexpectedly, in the darkness, he was subdued and suppressed by a person, close to whispering. You're still just as easily lured by sound, Team Kuang. It was her voice, which was still clean and calm after 3 years, but a little more hoarse and calm. He didn't look back, but asked, why did you come back? Because I set up this game. They kill me once, and I want them to pay for everyone's death. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 5, The Innocent. She used fake death to escape from the control of the organization, but the price she paid was 3 years of silence. She lurks in the International Intelligence Relay Station to find out the real person behind the resonator, a high-ranking military and political background, known as Eucalyptus. Nai Yun Miao is actually a helper, luring the snake out of the hole in the name of his novel. Those so-called murders are actually targets that have long been marked by the resonators, but she lured them out in advance and carried out anti-prophetic intervention. The real turning point came in the 5th homicide, which failed. The recording arrived, but the target didn't die. Because that person is hanging himself. They know I'm alive. When she said this, Her eyes were no longer cold, but vigilant and decisive. Kwang Siyu finally understood, this is a double spy, she has gone from an undercover agent to a scapegoat, and from a scapegoat to a leading hunter. Underscore 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 on. Finale, Burning Bright. The last stronghold of the Resonators is in the undersea communication fortress. The castle plague led a raid. The battle was fierce, and she engaged the eucalyptus in front of the main ventricle, but the other party sneered, "You think this is the end? You're just a character in my next novel." "Yes, but I don't follow the script." She detonated the system and incinerated the entire mind control database at the bottom, sealing all illegal memories forever. When the explosion sounded, she and Kwang stood on top of the reef, looking at the flames on the shattered sea. "You've always done this, burning everything to ashes. But in the ashes, there will always be sparks left. The crow is reborn in the flames. It's too late to tell the truth, but it's never too late." Sequel. Deep Resonance. Underscore 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 on. Chapter 1, After the Fire. On the night of the Resonator rout, it was not only the mind control database that was burned, but also the root nodes of the entire organization on the dark web. But he knew that that was just the tip of the iceberg. Eucalyptus's main consciousness was backed up and shifted 0.7 seconds before she detonated. She missed. The police announced that the operation was successful and all the suspects were punished. The media is hotly discussing the return of the crow and the comeback of the genius girl. But no one knew that she was dismantling the last heart-controlled firewall reserved by Eucalyptus day and night. It was a special sound wave algorithm, hidden in an unpublished novel left by Shen Yinmian, Deep Resonance. As I read it, the familiar but mutated voice sounded in my ears again. "If you hear it, you've resonated." Underscore 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 on. Chapter 2, The Net Breaker. Lang Tongqi found an anomaly. 3 out-of-control car accidents in downtown A, 5 incidents of emotional violence in public places, and a murder between strangers. There is no overlap between the victim and the perpetrator behind it, but the brainwave trajectories are similar. This is not the remnants of the Resonators. This is a new version of the voice-activated virus. Kwang Siyu asked in a deep voice, "Something to do with deep resonance?" Lang Xiongqi nodded, "It is an introduction, and the micro-vibrations in the reader's ears will cooperate with specific sentence patterns during reading, so that the brain will produce a latent state of acceptance. As soon as the phrase is triggered, it will activate the killing intent. So it's not fiction, it's an invisible knife." His tone was calm, but his eyes were stained with murderous intent. "And that book has been widely released on the dark web in the name of trial reading." Underscore 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 on. Chapter 3, The Brain of the Other. He chose to take the initiative to enter the game. As a Psi-body experiment volunteer, she logged into the brain-computer link platform and entered the consciousness simulation area of Deep Resonance. This is a gamble, and once her consciousness is caught by the sub-control program, she will become the second Eucalyptus. In that spiritual world, she saw him. A consciousness monster made entirely from the fragments of her past, with her voice and logic, but full of cruelty, cold-bloodedness, and absolute control. "You're not here to destroy me, but to be me. No, I'm here to let you know, you're not me." She slashed through the opponent's phantom, and the terminal brainwave stopped. She gasped for air and woke up from the simulation pod. But what was left behind was a command hidden in the nerve endings of her ear. "Kwang Siu, it's your next target to eliminate." Underscore 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 on. Chapter 4, The Door of Repercussions. He began to dream. In the dream, she returns to her lab at the age of 13 and becomes the youngest echoer in the Resonator training program. She dreamed that she had met Lang Xiongqi for the first time, and she dreamed that Kwang Siyu blocked a knife for her for the first time, and she also dreamed of she had killed a girl with whom she was related by blood. "It's not that I can't remember, it's that I choose not to." It turned out that the dangling memories had been partitioned, and part of her personality was sealed in special hypnotic instructions. This deep resonance not only opened her nightmare, but also opened her unsolved sins. Kwang discovered that she was abnormal and began to quietly investigate the real death list behind the bombing 3 years ago. In a yellowed photo, he saw the girl who looked similar to the one who looked like the hanging. Hang's sorrowful twin sister, Quora. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 5, Twins and the Truth. It turns out that the person who died 3 years ago is not hanging. It was Grace who died for her. They are cultivated as mirror objects in the experiments of the resonators, one light and one dark, one good and one evil. The one who really entered the police world was Gattery, who was impersonating herself and trying to escape control. When she found out, it was too late to save her, so she could only bear her identity. This is also why he is willing to fake his death after being hanged, just to protect his sister's last reputation and innocence. She died twice, once in the fire, and once at the moment I chose to be silent. Hanging in front of the grave and whispering, Kuang Siyu held her cold hand and said slowly. This time, don't take it alone. Underscore 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 un. Epilogue. When the sound stops. The remnants of the resonators have finally surfaced, and they have built a new type of digital spiritual weapon network with eucalyptus as the axis. Codename Zero Domain. The anti-jamming voice device developed by Liang Xian and Lang Suankai, combined with the sonic countermeasure mechanism, successfully woke Kuang Siyu from a potential attack. But the price is that he must enter the Zero Domain in person and completely turn off the voice-activated main core. If I don't return, then let the flame come to an end for the final battle. She once again infiltrates the virtual sonic network, confronts the eucalyptus consciousness in a mental duel, and finally destroys the main control device in the form of mother frequency disconnection. The sound stops. Resonance returns to silence. The world is back to normal. Her figure gradually faded away in the silence. Underscore 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 un. Epilogue. The fire is not extinguished. 3 years later. An unsender letter appeared on Kuang Siyu's desk. I finally found my whole self and was finally able to choose who I lived for. No longer a mirror, no longer a substitute for whom. At this moment, I am living in the name of truth hanging. He looked out the window at the morning light, a light piercing through the clouds, like the remnants of the fire.